Jen with Astro Astrology. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about everything going retrograde. So we're talking about retrogrades. The reason we're talking about this is because by the time Uranus stations retrograde on the 28th of this month, August, we have almost all the planets that can go retro, either already retrograde or getting ready to station. So starting from the closest to the sun, we have Mercury. And that station's on the 23rd of August, and it stays in its retrograde motion until the 15th of September. Venus has been retrograde since July 22nd, and it will station to go direct about the 3rd of September. Mars is direct, so yay, that's keeping us going a little bit. Jupiter will station on September 4th, so just as Venus is coming out, Jupiter is going to be going in, and that's going to be retro until December 30th. We have Saturn that's been retrograde since June 18th. That's going to be until November 4th. Again, Uranus stations on the 28th of this month. Neptune has been retro since July 1st. And Pluto has been retrograde since May 2nd, will be till October 10th. So pretty much 7 out of the 8 planets with Jupiter and Venus kind of, one ends, the other begins, but they're still going to be in their post and pre-shadow period. So what does this mean? So first, when planets are about to station, they start slowing down. So that forward momentum is slowed down, and they almost appear when they go retrograde to be moving backwards. So with all the planets either in retrograde or slowing down to station, it can feel like kind of trudging through mud to get things done. Things aren't moving as fast. Maybe, things get stalled. Projects take a little bit longer. So with Mars still going strong, going forward, that kind of spurs us on a little bit, but with everything else kind of, keeping the status quo, getting things started. Anything that is starting is kind of just going to be simmering for a little while. So overall, this might not be the time to really start a new venture, sign any contracts, kind of step away, take some time, re-look at things, reconfigure things, kind of get a new perspective. Take all the different planets and all their different meanings into account to kind of look back in retrospect before moving forward. So again, you kind of, it's like, we're kind of have a bunch of stuff in the pot. It's kind of starting to simmer a little bit, but we're still tasting it, still adding things, and we're just going to kind of let it simmer slow before we really bring it to a boil. So when a planet goes retrograde, and I know I've talked about this before, but just a refresher, it's going to cover the same area of your chart 3 times. So say we have Venus is retrograde, so Venus is in Leo. So we've talked about how it's going to be going back, it's going to be coming into conjunction with the sun, and then it's going to go back forward. So if you say and I'm holding Mercury, so let's pretend I'm holding Venus and you have a planet in Leo. So Venus, if it's near the end of the sign, it's going to go over that 3 times. So whatever that planet is, if it's a positive, it's got other positive aspects, something, somewhat positive is going to come out of it. With Venus, say for instance, it could be money, it could be love, it could be, a good partnership, a nice balance, flowers growing, just everything beautiful, everything looking nice. Maybe you're having really good hair days for a while or something like that. But, so it's kind of going over the same, so, let's see. Oh, maybe if it is about hairdos, let's say, for instance, Leo, we have Leo's big mane, so, it's we're going forward. We had some great stuff going on. How did we do that? It's going retrograde. Kind of looking back, how did we style it? Which one did we like? What are we going to try again? What are we going to tweak a little bit? Then it starts moving forward. Okay, so we got this month planned. We have our hair on point, and we're looking good. So, it could be something subtle like that, really depending on what all this is hitting in your chart. So, we have a new moon in Leo on the 16th. Now, usually, and I'll have a whole video on that separately, but usually with a new moon, I encourage you to start something new, to plant a seed, to get, ideas brewing, to, kind of just kickstart something, to start growing something. But I'm really not encouraging that now, only because everything is so stalled, everything is so slow, so you don't really pick a different new moon to kind of start things. Pickle is going to say hi Pinky. So we need to use this time, instead of kind of getting things going, kind of more as a reflection, to look back and see the things that we might want to change a little bit, so that when everything starts moving ahead, we can start putting those ideas and those changes into action. So give your mind, give your body a rest, and just kind of sit back and sit in your lounge chair and relax a little bit. It's the end of summer. We want to enjoy it. So Leo's a fixed sign, and it does love things staying as is. Sun is in Leo, so, in matters of the heart, Leo, things like that, with the Venus also in there. There's a Sun-Venus conjunction coming up in mid-month on the 13th. So instead of wanting change, it might be a good time to try and appreciate what you have. Think back to, when maybe your relationship might have been a little spicier, maybe when it was new. Kind of bring some of that old spark back again that you may be missing and that may have gone stale, without really, kind of chalking it up as, oh, this is over. Because this energy could, cause some kind of like stalemate feeling. And this energy will last till about mid-September, and that's when Venus and Mercury start going direct. Again, when they start their motion, it's not super fast, so it takes a little bit to start getting going. So when planets are all retrograde, or when any planets go retrograde, we mainly focus on the personal planets, which is Mercury, Venus, and Mars. They're the most impactful on us. They move a little bit faster. When the outer planets, for instance, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, when they're going retrograde, they're retrograde so often that any part of our chart that they're hitting is going to feel intense, but it's going to take a longer amount of time to really see that and feel that, and to really look back after and say, I bet that Pluto, I look back at when Pluto was really going through for the last 20 years in Capricorn. And that's my rising sign. And, I really, in the past 20 years, have changed so much. And, you kind of go a little bit back and forth. So, I'm going to be even changing more, because now it's moving into Aquarius. It's going to be in a different part of my chart. So, it's kind of looking back to the changes as you're going back and forth a little bit, because it's doing a little bit of bouncing around between those two, and it will be doing that for a while. But again, mid-September is when I would expect things to really, start progressing again. It does take time for them to get going once they go direct. It takes a little bit. Say you're like in a car. You don't go 0 to 60 in 1 second. It takes a little bit for your car to get up to speed, especially, maybe larger cars take a little bit longer, where Mercury, the smaller planet, the faster moving planet, will get up there a little bit speedier. So here's what you might be experiencing. So, and we're going to now work our way in from Pluto backwards to the more, the ones that kind of have the longer impact to the more kind of quicker, more intense impacts. So, Pluto. It's kind of, again, been bouncing back and forth from Aquarius to Capricorn. So starting about May 1st, going direct about October 10th. So Pluto really, wants to bring things to the surface. Be careful, though, that you don't get in too deep with all, really, getting intense. Pluto can be a very intense planet. It can, it's very scorpionic in a way where, you want to kind of really get down and, really get to the nitty gritty of things and really find out, and have things exposed. But again, you don't want to get in too deep and get yourself into trouble or get, too obsessed, too fixated on one thing. Pluto transit on natal luminaries, personal planets, that's, on your angles, like I was explaining with my, in my ascendant house, in my first house, 10th house, 4th house, 7th house, those are your angles, the angular houses, and that's where you're going to kind of feel it a little more intensely than other places, depending on, especially to where you have things around the chart. So again, be careful of that obsessive compulsion. Next we have Neptune. It's been in Pisces since July 1st. It's been in retrograde. It will be going direct on December 6th. So this is going retrograde. So your intuition might be a bit off. You might remember things a bit differently than they actually are. Your memory might be a bit skewed. You might see things with maybe a little rosier colored glasses. Maybe, remember things the way you want to remember them and not the way that they actually should be remembered. You can easily fall back into past habits, bad habits. If you're trying to kick, drinking, any kind of substance, might have some falling back on it. You kind of want to be careful of that, because you could, have some of these delusions, deception. Remember how, we used to have fun doing this, drinking, let's go out, and if you're trying to quit and your friends are trying to encourage you, you don't want to just go into that. So you want to be careful of those kind of things with Neptune, kind of falling back into bad patterns and just not seeing things the way they truly are, and just really be careful of your intuition. Might be a little bit off. So then Uranus, that's been in Taurus, is going retrograde on August 28th, and that will stay retro until January 22nd. So this is going to give you a little bit of trouble moving ahead with any changes that you kind of plan. So again, this time with everything going retrograde, especially Uranus, you want to kind of re-examine those ideas. Instead of trying to make a spur of the moment change, you want to use a little more constraint and put a little more thought into it. Kind of let the idea simmer a little bit instead of just moving, and pushing right ahead until kind of everything comes, good time to really kind of figure your stuff out. Saturn has been in Pisces, and it is retrograde since the 17th of June until about the 4th of August. November. So I just have an 11 written on my notes and just blanked on what month that was. So reflection on our growth and maturity. So we're looking back onto what made us us. What things did I do to really make me proud of myself, to make, others proud of me, to really get me that, going up the ladder at work. Our maturity, how have we matured over the years to how we, might have been a little bit immature when we were young and doing stupid things, and now we're thinking a little bit twice. How are we going to keep growing in that direction, to keep, moving forward in life? Because you never want to just be complacent. You always want to keep moving forward and going after what this life has to offer for you. You know, look at your nodes for that, you know, see where your nodes are in your chart. What does this life have? And even your sun sign, that's your, you know, what compels you? What is it that you want from this life? You have to go after. So think back, how have you gone about attaining the goals? What have been your successes? And how can you keep moving in that direction? You know, kind of once Saturn starts moving forward, how can we keep that, you know, maturity with that growth kind of going forward and really gaining our goals that, you know, were meant in this life? So then we move on to Jupiter. So Jupiter is in retrograde until about December 30th. So it kind of relieves that rash, over the top Jupiter kind of behavior. It kind of slows it down. It is in Taurus, so, you know, like I always say about Taurus, is that slow and steady wins the race. So if you want that growth, if you want that expansion, you really got to take time and really build it. Build it slowly. Have a good foundation. So think, you know, plan, think back as to like, okay, so, you know, we want to make a plan. This is the time that we're going to think in retrospect. How are we going to, you know, put this into fruition? You know, we want to take that time for our inward growth, with our inward, even spirituality. You know, you want to grow from the inside to be able to grow on the outside. So that's kind of a little bit of Jupiter. So now let's get into the personal planets. So we have Venus in Leo. Again, we kind of talked about this earlier, but this is from July 22nd, and it will be till the 3rd of September. So this could cause any breaks in relationship that might have some cracks in them already. Your passions may cool down a little bit. Again, you know, that passion that you had when things were starting, your fires might be kind of smoldering instead of, you know, out of control, blazing. So you might think about a past relationship. You know, you have that Neptune, remembering the past, kind of remembering it maybe a little skewed. Oh, you know, when I was with this person, oh, things were so much fun and we had such a great time. You know, you're thinking about it a little bit skewed. Well, you're not with that person for a reason. So what's that reason? You know, you kind of, you don't want to do anything stupid. You know, Leo is about kind of, you know, getting that attention, you know, wanting attention on yourself, especially if you have Venus in there. You want your partner to just lavish attention on you and just make you just like that focal point. Like, I'm your sun, or you're my sun, and I'm going to rotate around you. That's, you know, Venus-y in Leo. That's what they want. So you don't want to just do anything stupid to get that attention that you might be missing a little bit. You know, maybe you want to kind of rekindle what you have. You know, is it worth saving? You want to think, is this worth saving, or is it something that is just like too far gone? This is, you know, the kind of looking back in retrospect during this Venus retrograde. So, you know, maybe rehashing old issues, kind of bringing them back up, bringing them to the forefront, talking them through, you know, just kind of being a little calmer about it. Don't want to do something that you're going to end up regretting, especially with Lilith being in there, because we have Lilith in the mix, and Lilith, kind of that dark moon, that kind of that taboo stuff that, you know, is the things that we really desire that we might keep down. You know, maybe now's the time that we talk about those things a little bit with our partner, you know, kind of bring them up, and maybe they'll be interested in the same thing. Who knows? Pull their chart up, see where their Lilith is, and hey, maybe you'll jive a little bit better. So then we have Mercury, and Mercury is going on the 23rd. That's going to be going retrograde on the 23rd till mid-September on the 15th. So, you know, this is short and powerful. don't fall into old patterns again, issues being brought back up, kind of, when you're thinking of even with the same thing with Libra being in retrograde, bringing up the same fights over and over again, bringing up past issues that, you thought you've dealt with, and bringing them back to the surface and just dwelling on the past. Classically also with Mercury, we have always the electronics. There's always, we don't really want to go out and buy a new computer right now. Something's going to be wrong with it. Something might be going wrong with your computer. Trying to upload something, you get glitches. You might have to reboot over and over again. You might have to restore an old file just to kind of bring it back to what it was, because you want to be careful that you don't lose anything that you've been working on. So ultimately, we want to take this time to take things slow. We want to reflect on who we are and what we've become and what we've done and how we've worked to get to where we are. Don't revisit old harmful patterns. Stay away from that. Keep trudging forward. Our feet might be feeling like they're stuck in the mud, but we want to keep pushing on. We want to keep pushing forward. You don't want to just stall. Just try and push a little bit, and then once everything starts moving, it'll get a little bit easier as long as you keep trucking. Want to rekindle old stale relationship, or not old stale relationship, rekindle a stale relationship instead of going back to something that might have been harmful from the past, or something that you might remember fondly but might not have actually been as great as you remember. Careful with those old flames from the past. Restart a positive hobby. Restart something that you used to do. Maybe if you used to dabble in arts, if you used to paint, if you used to do clay molding, or anything like that, get back into that. Kind of relook into it. Something nice and slow and calm. Get into reading books. Maybe read some books that you used to enjoy. I love looking at the astrology books I have, and I actually have one from when I took an astrology course back when I went to college, back when I was 18 years old. And I've really been reading a lot into that one, and it's just fascinating, the things that kind of I didn't grasp back then, but that are really so meaningful nowadays, with the more people I know and the more charts I've read and the more things I've looked at, and putting things into perspective, the life, and as people grow and the experiences they go through in their lives, there's so much more material to look at. Now that we're older, when you're 18 years old, things are very different. You haven't lived that much, so there's not much to go back on to say oh, well, I remember this Venus transit, or this when this was happening, or this kind of aspect was happening in my chart, Jupiter in this house, this is what's happening. Well, now I've had that life, and all the people that I've grown up with, friends of mine, other people that I've done charts for, people that I work with, looking at those and what people have grown into is just fascinating to kind of look back on. So get your chart up and start kind of going back, so here's where Jupiter is. So let's see where this was in my life 12 years ago. Let's see how it looked then. Let's see what the aspects were. It's a great time to really kind of reminisce, use your chart, really get to know it. Go back, go to astro.com. You can put in different dates once you get your chart up, and you can really kind of go back and forth and just kind of, compare the different charts, the different, the way that the different planets aspected your personal planets and all of your planets on your natal chart. It's really a lot of fun to do, actually, and it really gets you to understand astrology, how it works in everyday life, and how it kind of, does affect you. Nothing. Sometimes it's not so super huge. Sometimes there's a little I remember that. I remember around around that time, this was happening. So it's fun. A lot of fun. I totally encourage you to do that. And if you need a chart and you want a little explanation of things, then definitely contact me, Jenna at astrotastrology@gmail.com, and I can get a chart for you. Just give me your birth time, place, and date. So again, take the time to enjoy the end of summer, relax, rehab, reflect, and just enjoy. And I'll see you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.